This is what I do before people come on. Ha, ha, ha. He's crying inside. Can you hear him? That's the title of the show. Can you hear me?
That's the title of the show.
Yeah, I shouldn't do any of what I was just.
All right.
Hello, Leslie.
Hello, Leslie.
That's it.
First.
Thank you for joining us.
One joining. Eventually, that'll mean something. Right now, all you get is a wave. Thank you for coming on in. Appreciate it.
You are ridiculous.
But tonight's going to be a lively show, I'm pretty sure. So, first one in, hopefully not the first one to leave. Hello, hello, hello. Hello to you too.
I'm just going to send out some things. I am actually paying attention to what is happening.
Yes.
But I want people, this is a very important topic. Men's mental health is not spoken about as much as I think that it should be. And so I want as many people who can come on to hear what we have to say about this topic.
Yeah.
So I'm just going
Especially
to
me.
Mostly what he has to say. I'm not going to say
a lot. I'm going to have to say a whole lot.
Thank you for waving at me. I appreciate it.
That's what's up. Long as that signal stays strong. That's pretty much where we're at because Instagram be tripping sometimes. So
why are you talking like that? That is so not your normal voice.
I know. But I don't know. I'm just killing time till we get going.
I'm going to try to get as many.
We competing with Nicki Minaj. Lord of mercy.
We are competing with Nicki Minaj? How so?
I think she just started a live.
Oh, who cares? How do I know? We don't follow Nicki Minaj.
You don't? Oh, somebody that's name looks like Minaj. That popped up there. I don't know.
I don't follow Nicki Minaj.
Ah, that's it. She said she's in and out of the house and car. Well, you're having an evening of running errands, it sounds like. Can relate. And even if Nicki was going live, like, I wouldn't be watching it anyways. So
yeah, I don't know what you're talking about because we do not follow Nicki Minaj, so we have no idea what Nicki Minaj is doing.
Especially after that whole Kevin Samuels, what was that, a collaboration or whatever it was. It was very interesting. Shout out to all the Nicki Minaj fans though, like definitely.
Good for you.
Good for you. Good for you. That's all right.
I mean, you like who you like, right?
We all do.
I don't need to like them.
I'm sure I've got some favorites that some people might not find very on their list, but man, that's why we all have opinions. That's why we all have opinions. Yeah, you shot out like
I'm just going.
Yeah, I'm not complaining.
I'm just going until
just
Instagram tells me. I don't even know what.
Twin Zinc, Pepper Seed. Glad you could join, fellas.
Hello, Nola.
I'm sure you guys are gonna be big time contributors tonight because we're gonna be talking about men's mental health. What that means to me, what that means to some of y'all, what that means to society. And I know the show is called Fuck Your Feelings, but tonight we might talk about feelings a little bit more than normal because we can. That's the whole point of it. Women have been riding on that feelings wave for a long time. And maybe it's about time that guys get a little bit more comfortable telling these ladies how they really feel about some shit.
No, and I want to clarify again. Volume is low.
Okay, let's turn this gain up, and we're gonna push the mic a little closer because we don't have anybody joining in yet. So.
Men do have feelings too. Thank you, Leslie.
Absolutely,
men absolutely have feelings too. And I want to be clear. Like, yes, our show is called Fuck Your Feelings, but when we say fuck your feelings, it really is you as the receiver of information fucking your feelings to allow the person who's giving you the information the space to do so. And I think that's what a lot of people, hey. That's what a lot of people don't do, right? When someone is giving them information or feedback or telling them how they feel, they tend to put their feelings in place of that person. And so that person doesn't get an opportunity to really express how they're feeling. So when we say fuck your feelings, like, if Rob is expressing something to me, it's for me to fuck my feelings, not for Rob to do that. Rob should have the space to express how he's feeling without me interjecting and making it about me. So I wanted to clarify when we say fuck your feelings, what that means. It isn't saying that you're not supposed to have feelings in a relationship. Of course we have feelings. However, never let your feelings supersede somebody else's when they're expressing. And I think as women, because again, I like to say, I speak to the women, Rob speaks to the men, and we speak to them, speak to both of you collectively. I think as women, we tend to interject our feelings when our men are speaking to us, which is why I titled the show, He's Crying Inside. Can you hear him?
And I'm just trying to pull this mic a little bit
and
closer.
Often maybe I need, and often we can't hear because we're busy speaking or we're busy ready to respond to something our men have said, and we haven't heard what he's really saying because we get our feelings so wrapped up when our men are expressing themselves that at this point the man is crying inside. And I have 2 videos I want to show where men are talking about that. Thank you, Pepper Seed. Where men are talking about that, literally saying, like, sometimes I don't even want to come home. There's a guy in one of the videos that's literally, he looks fine on the outside, but it looks like he was like screaming. And I think as women, it is our responsibility as with the men in our lives to ensure that we are listening to understand, not listening to respond and get our feelings all involved. Fuck your feelings.
I love how you put that, babe.
Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. No, like that's, I don't even know if we ever, all these episodes, and I don't know if we ever really, really unpacked like what fuck your feelings means. Again, it's not, it's again, you gotta be able to fuck your feelings in order to receive the information that the person is trying to give you, not be processing your feelings while they're talking to you. Therefore, you're not getting a clear picture of what's trying to be said. And one of the things I wanted to kind of kick off with talking about is guy to guy, like, times have changed, times have evolved. I have a son. I have 2 sons actually, but one with a bit more of a direct contact. And when he was born,
fix my face.
One of the things that, yeah, you were wild.
He has one son that we know is his and one that may be his. Yes, I will say that. But anyways, continue.
Anyways, yes, that's funny. Anyhow, one of the things that kind of changed after he was in my life was the idea that of how a man should show affection to his son, to other men. There's certain segments that feel like any type of affection is not masculine, and I think that's a bit ridiculous. I tell my boy I love him all the time. I actually tell my friends I love them now, and that's something that I didn't do when I was younger, just from the perspective that they're like my brothers, And I don't say just, well, let me back that up. I tell my bros I love them. That's something completely different, you know what I mean? Because not all family is blood. I think we all know that. And then some relationships you have in life are as if you came from the same source almost. You know what I mean? Like they're just lifelong relationships. So one of the things I wanted to just start off with, like, is how acceptable do you find it to express and receive affection from another man, especially in this day and age where wires get crossed so ridiculously easy, you know what I'm saying? And with that being said, I've never had a problem of being to one of my bros like, I love you, man, I love you, bro, and him misinterpreting that as, you
didn't have
like,
to say no homo with
no homo, or pause or none of that. Like I think it should be, I think we should all as men be comfortable enough in our space as men. Like they say, iron sharpens iron, I as I've gotten older, I've gotten big on trying to give flowers to the people while they still here that matter to me. Not wait until they in some casket and be talking about, how much they meant to me. You know what I mean?
So Pepper C he made 2 comments, and I want to go to it. So when I was speaking, he said, Some want to put on the victim jacket and deflect. They're deflecting, and I completely agree. But this is a really good question. Is it better to feel respect from another man?
More than use the word love, and he's adding on to the comment. I think that they almost go hand in hand on a certain level. Like from a man-to-man relationship, how can I love you if I don't respect you? Like that sounds like. And again, I look like when I speak of my bros, is you don't always agree. You get into things, but that respect level is always there. There's certain ways I would never talk to a bro. I would never expect him to talk to me. And if it did get to that point, then it's obviously one of them situations where it's gonna go past words. You know what I mean? And again, sometimes with brothers, it gets to that point. But that love and that respect is always there. It's not like all of a sudden we gonna be trying to murder each other after this altercation or nothing like that.
Well, men just respond to each other differently than
absolutely,
women do.
But to the respect factor, but I also think you can respect a man and have no love for him. You know what I'm saying? On the other way. So I think when you're talking about those close interpersonal relationships, yeah, man, I think it is like it should be kind of like a brotherly type of friendship, a brotherly type of a love and respect. And then when you're talking about like workplace male to male relationships, I think that's more along the lines of just as long as you respect me, we cool, bruh. I ain't really gotta like you. You don't really gotta like me. Really, that ain't gotta even really no place in the workplace. Like, as far as I'm concerned, it's like in basketball. You know, I've had teammates that are bros, and I've had teammates that I did not give one flying F about. But I managed to play with all of them. You know what I'm saying? And I managed to respect all of them as far as that respect can carry. Because let's be honest, sometimes you get into like places where you have to deal with someone and the respect ain't there, and that becomes more of a situation where it's like tolerance. You just have to learn to be professional and tolerate a motherfucker.
So let me ask you that. Do you think that there's some women who are tolerating the men that they're with?
That's where we're going to get into the meat and potatoes of some of this stuff. Absolutely. I think that there's a lot of women out here professing love for the man in their life when they really tolerate him. Because that's why one of the questions from the poll, I don't know if we're going to get into that just early yet, but that was one that I kind of came up with, was just the one is like to my men, to the fellas this on or later on when these clips, you can respond to it like, do you ever feel like you're in a place where the only function and purpose that you feel like you have is what you provide financially to the situation?
So basically the question was, fellas, do you feel like your only value is finances? Unfortunately, I couldn't share that result because a woman answered, and it was only actually one woman.
Okay, so we didn't get that poll out in time,
we didn't.
Don't matter.
We got it out, but maybe fellas didn't want to answer. But that is a good question. Are men feeling that their finances are the thing that are keeping the woman in their life? Is that kind of what you meant?
On a certain level, I think that I think that because I felt that way before, and not even on no like. On no rich guy stuff, but just the fact that, hold on, let's see what Duke put in. A lot of the time women don't like to start over, so they settle. The devil you know is better than the devil you don't. That's a tricky situation because it'd be the same women, though, that threaten that man that they're settling with on leaving all the time. You know what I mean?
But what's settle? Like, what does it mean for a woman? Because I hear that a lot in spaces. I just heard it listening to Kevin Samuels before our show, where a woman was talking about she used to run after ballers and entertainers. And now that she's 36 and none of them have chosen her, you know, I'm willing to settle. And it's like, what does settling look like? Because it's very rare I hear men use that terminology that I'm going to settle.
Pepper Seed says, why is settle only viewed in a negative? Because I think the term settle just doesn't sit right with many people in a world that preaches you have to be exceptional. I'm gonna tell you one thing.
Hold on, before you go, can I settle for peace, love, and care? Yeah, but you're not. I don't think that's settling, right? That's not settling. That's defining what you want and ensuring that the path that you're on, that's what you get. A lot of the times why settling has a negative thing is because women have attached a negative connotation. I didn't get the baller. I didn't get the athlete. I didn't get the lure I wanted. So you know what? I'll settle for this guy over here making $75,000 a year. Again, as if $75,000 a year is so easy to make in these day and age. So a lot of women feeling, and again, it's usually when we're in our 30s into 40s, when we haven't gotten in a relationship, then we feel like, oh, I will settle. And it's been given a negative connotation. So no, you're not settling for peace, love, and care. That is very clear about what you want, and you're going after it. But a lot of women feel like they're settling for men when the men don't meet the quote unquote standards that they had of making this and all of the different things. Anywho, I could go on and on. This is your show.
That's why we're having a show, man. Honestly, bro. That's why we're having a show, because peace, love, and care should be the benchmark and the standard. But damn, it's like, this niggas getting treated so bad that they'll settle for peace, love, and care, because what they getting is like belittlement, bloodshed, and bludgeoning and things like that. You know what I mean? Like that ass. Because now let's get into the next part of it. Men's mental health. I have a saying. It shouldn't be no surprise to us that women are crazy, because we all got crazy mamas. And I make that statement jokingly, but I think every dude, no matter how much you love your mama, she got that one crazy situation in your life where you was like, yo, she was bugging. We know what women are capable from, because we were a lot of shit in this world, a lot of times raised by women. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's be 100% honest about the shit. So I also don't understand why women seem to, in the modern dating marketplace, put so much emphasis and value on their punani and no value on the other set of lips, which is the one that produce the words that come out their mouth. I don't understand it. And as a man who has experienced belittlement, like I said, in my marriage, bro, I've literally told my wife, you make me feel like a nigga who work at McDonald's.
Not me, by the way.
No, absolutely not her. You know what I'm saying? Like, no, we don't do that, because that's very disrespectful behavior, and we have rule number 1, so we don't ever go through that type of stuff. But for real, I've heard things like, I make more money, so I should be able to spend more money, from a person who had a child going into the relationship when I had none. That type of energy. You dig? And this is a decade plus ago. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was not always fuck your feelings. I was at one point trying to be a good man, you know, just happy wife, happy life. Yeah.
And so I now deal with the residual effects of that.
It's not that. It's a better me, absolutely. Isn't it? It's a better me.
Okay.
Yeah, she'd love me to be Luther Vandross so she could walk all over me and leave me.
That
like,
is not true. Don't say that to these people. Stop it. Universe, he don't know what he's saying. He might have had a little alcohol before he shot.
Anyhow. Back to the subject of, again, words. The words that come out of a woman's mouth, the power in them words. Look, ladies, here's a secret. When he's chosen you, your words can make him feel like he can run through a building. Here's the other part of it. They can also make him want to jump off a building. And the power of that is in you. Feminism got y'all trying to run out here and be equals to us when all of your power is in being opposite of us.
Facts.
So I don't know why y'all want to be men so bad.
I do not.
Like, I call it penis envy. That's one of the colloquialisms I use. I really don't think you have a bad case of it.
I don't have a case of it at all. I would not want to be a man. You couldn't pay me. I don't want black men.
It's rough out here in these
I don't
streets,
want black men
man.
issues.
Like,
And I'm not even saying it jokingly. I say
rough
to him
here,
all
man.
the time, I don't want big 6'9" black man issues. I don't want 5'7" black man issues. I don't want the issues of a black man, especially a black man living in America. I do not want those issues. And this is why I do my best. I'm not always successful, but I do my best of creating a safe space in this relationship and in this home for him, because I understand when he leaves these doors and when he's got to work, what he's got to deal with, especially when he leaves these doors. No thank you.
Like,
no thank you.
Okay, here's some real talk right now. Like, I work in the finance industry, right? And I've literally heard it to the effect of like, we don't want alpha males working here. Like, leave that mentality at home.
What now?
You have to be able to get along with these women at work, and being an alpha male almost makes that impossible. See, that's kind of the weirdness of corporate America these days, is I have to watch my behavior towards my female colleagues, but they don't have to watch their behavior towards me. And that's what makes it a very, very interesting dynamic.
So Peppa Seed has said, words stick to a man's brain like glue. Some remember things from even when their mother said. Their mother means mother, for those who don't understand patois. He's also said women are allowed to vent more, but a man has to watch his mouth and actions, which is what Rob was basically saying.
Absolutely.
So women are, in your mind, running around able to, speak like they're taking, diarrhea out of their mouth. Like, I can say what I want. But if you respond, then it's a problem.
Or how about this one? Women behave in a way as the female, like, you've chosen this woman, and unfortunately we don't always make good decisions about how we choose, but you've chosen this woman, and she's talking to you in a manner that if a man was talking to you like that, you'd whoop his ass. You know what I'm saying? You'd be on his ass.
You'd punch him in his throat.
But because she's a female, your only true recourse is to, like, leave the house. Like, you or just take it. And that's interesting. And like, man, we need some ladies to chime in on some of this stuff too.
So
like, what makes a woman want to talk to a man in that type of manner? I mean, I know that's tough for you to answer, because you
it's
really,
because I grew up
even
with
when you're
my
upset,
daddy.
you don't.
Like, here's the thing: I have a really good daddy. He's a flawed man, but he's a great daddy. And growing up with my father, I understood the value of words. I grew up with a father who was highly educated. I grew up with a father who, I'm 42 now. I don't think I've heard my father curse once in his life. He carried himself in a certain manner. And because he carried himself in a certain manner, that's how I saw him. And he treated women in a certain manner. The women in his life and his daughters. He's got 7 of us. And so for me, having that in my life, it gave me a framework. That's what's up, Jake. It gave me a framework to deal with the men in my life. I know that in the past, I have not said the kindest words. And I have regretted them, and I've apologized for them. And I coming into the latter part of my 30s, I get mid-30s, I knew that I had to make some changes, because that behavior wasn't, and it wasn't like I was that all the time, but, I can recall 2 times in my life that I've said some very vile and disgusting things, and that to me was repulsive to me. So I was like, imagine a woman who does that all the time, constantly in an argument. Like I said, I say it all the time, there are 2 things that you can't get back: the words after you've said them, and your time. And nobody wants to feel like they've wasted their time with a woman. Let me say, no man wants to feel that he's wasted a time with a woman that he valued that didn't value him back. Hey, Jay.
Hey. Appreciate the comments, bro.
And, Twin Zing said entitlement.
And Pepper Seed said, enough men in jail and grave because of them. Well, absolutely, because, again, we're talking about affection to man, but we also, as man to man, we know the consequences of disrespect even more than we know how to be affectionate. We definitely know that from the playground. You know what I'm saying? Look here, if you sit here and talk to another man or even another boy in a certain kind of way, chances are he's going to respond physically to that.
Well, you just made a good point. Consequences of disrespect.
Fighting words.
Is it that as women we often haven't faced?
No, y'all don't. No, y'all don't.
No, you didn't even let me get it out. They said,
no,
you
seriously don't. You seriously don't. That's why. What was it? The biggest phenomenon. And again, we're gonna talk about some of them people for a second. But what was the little tiny white girl, like 80 pounds, talking about cash me outside?
Oh, I don't know. She was on Dr. Phil.
She done turned it into a whole career, right?
Dr. Phil.
That shit should have got stopped when one person cashed her ass outside and put some on her little 80-pound ass. But because she's a female, she got to talk like that. In this politically correct world where, again, aggression is viewed as felonious.
No, here's the thing.
Felonious, in my opinion.
Aggression from a woman is now perceived as standing up for ourselves. And that is a problem.
Oh, I'm talking about men. And for men, aggression is felonious.
No, and that's fine. But let me speak for the women. You can talk to the men. I'm going to speak for the aggression in women is now applauded because it's like, girl, you speaking up for yourself and don't let nobody do that to you. But disrespect is still disrespect, no matter how you plate it and put it on a china, right? It's still a well-plated pile of shit. If it's disrespect. And I think as women, we've got to check other women. And this is part of what the show was about, was for me to be able to have that conversation with my sisters and say, some of this shit has to stop. All of this protect black women. What about the black men that go up there and sacrifice their lives for us? Are we protecting them? And I'm going to say why we're not protecting them. Babe, can you go to the screen? I want to show you, I don't know, can you just get it and then I'll get to the clip. So there are two videos that one of our followers sent, and it was profound for me because, again, often we're not hearing the cries of our men and they have no outlet. So it's going to be under show footage. Yeah. So I'm going to play both of these clips, and I just want you guys to watch this for a second. Hopefully it's not on.
I am tired of fighting every single day. I fight to wake up. I fight to go to sleep. All I do is fight for everybody else. But when is somebody to feel like I'm good enough to fight for? I am tired of surviving, and I want to live. You think it's just so easy to get over everything? To just let go? You think I wouldn't give anything to let go?
Hold on, no, I want you to play both of them.
Both? Oh.
Yes, I actually said play both of them.
Boy, Gates.
When you're a provider, and you're a real provider, but you already unhappy, and you're not feeling like you're being celebrated in a proper manner, you feel like you're only being tolerated. Like a lot of people be like, why certain men don't go home? Like when I was in the streets, I used to hate going home because I feel like it's cool, but I ain't welcome though. Because it don't feel embracing when I go home. It's like, y'all act like this, but I'm supposed to be doing that. And a lot of men suffer from that and not knowing that it's okay to have your man cave. You have to go in your solitude and have your time for yourself in order for you to release. Because we so busy being tough and harboring all these resentment and emotions and all the shit we deal with. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I don't know.
Pepper Seed said it was hard to hear. Did you guys hear that? Because it was profound, and I really want you guys to hear that. I am happy to replay it because I want to say when I watched both of these clips, I actually almost cried. Because I could feel the pain of these men. And when you've got a man saying, I'd rather be in the streets. Duke, did you not hear it? Are you guys saying you did not hear it? So I'm not sure what note means. Did note mean you did not hear it?
Did not hear.
Okay, so we just need to turn. Oh, second video. Okay, because you had turned it down. Okay. So we'll just play both of them again. Okay, and turn it up before you.
I am tired of fighting every single day. I fight to wake up. I fight to go to sleep. All I do is fight for everybody else. But when is somebody to feel like I'm good enough to fight for? I am tired surviving and I want to live. You think it's just so easy to get over everything? To just let go? You think I would give anything to let go? Men don't speak about this, but a lot of men suffer in silence also. Like when you a provider and you a real provider, but you already unhappy and you not feeling like you being celebrated in a proper manner. You feel like you're only being tolerated. Like a lot of people be like, why certain men don't go home? Like when I was in the streets, I used to hate going home because I feel like it's cool, but I ain't welcome though. Because it don't feel embracing when I go home. It's like, y'all act like this, what I'm supposed to be doing. And a lot of men suffer from that and not knowing that it's okay to have your man cave. You have to go in your solitude and have your time for yourself in order for you to release. Because we so busy being tough and harboring all these resentment and emotions and all the shit we deal with. You know what I'm saying?
Thank you.
Hold
go
on.
ahead. No,
this
is you. This is you.
A couple of points that I wanted to jump on from there. The first one was in the first clip where my man said, "Do you think it's so easy to just get over everything?" And I'm self-professedly, I'm not a super emotional guy, but I like almost back on that. I have all kind of emotions, but I don't express them joints like that, like crazy, because that's just not the space we get to move in as men. But what he said is, you think it's just that easy to get over everything. And it made me think about like to the fellas out there, have you ever been called sensitive by a woman?
It's not my conversation.
Yeah. And if you have, how'd that shit make you feel? Like, I bet it made you feel explosively upset. Like, that's some, like... So a dude actually trying to say how he feel about a violation. Like Duke Nation said, yes. I think most men have. Most men have, honestly. You trying to approach this woman that you care about a violation. And her response to you is, stop being so sensitive. Like, that's a real thing, man. Like, and if you're the type of woman you've ever said that to a man, you shouldn't have no complaints if that nigga don't ever speak to you about nothing about how he feel. Because that's what you deserve. Straight like that. The second point is what your man Gates was talking about, is when he was like saying, of feeling celebrated, of not feeling celebrated, and instead feeling tolerated. I think that's some of what we was trying to discuss earlier is I think a lot of men have also experienced that, where it's just like that's what I'm supposed to be doing. Like, if he's supposed to be doing everything, what are you supposed to be doing, sis? Well, nothing?
And let's read these comments quickly while people think about that.
For sure.
So, Duke Nation says it's annoying when a woman does that, and I completely agree. And then Twin Zinc says, you tell me to open up, then you said I'm sensitive. Shutdown mode activated.
Most men have shutdown mode, ladies.
I'm also going to add for the ladies, when you have done something that you know is wrong, do not use the words, I apologize. Please say, I'm sorry. How can I make this better? Because I apologize means, you know what? I just want you to shut the F up. I don't really mean anything. I just want to be done with this conversation. Yo, Rob, I apologize. Like, didn't you hear me apologize? Actually say, I'm sorry. What can I do to make this better?
Yeah, man.
That's sincere. And I think a lot of us, especially when we're caught up in our feelings, because what the man said hurt your feelings, that you could hear him when he was saying that I'm in pain and I need you as my woman. He's not going to say it the way that we do. Men are not going to express. But if you're in tuned with your man as you should be, when I'm in tune with Rob, I can tell when something is up. Really?
Purposely said I'm sorry.
Sounds more insincere. I find
no, not just a pure I'm sorry. I think that's she said I'm sorry, and what can I do to make it better?
Yeah.
That's the follow-up part of it.
Right?
That's
it's not just, I'm sorry, shut it down.
That's the same as I apologize. Just,
right? Like, I'm sorry and walk away isn't a real apology. I'm sorry. He says more sincere.
Yeah, that literally has the effect of my bad.
That's, yes, I apologize.
Like, we all know my bad is like, yeah, I don't give a fuck, but my bad.
You know what, for me, I think it's difficult for me as a woman when I go into spaces where other women are, and they talk about their sons in a certain way, but then talk about the men in their life in an opposite way. But I'm like, you're raising your son to be a good man, but then you say men ain't shit. So you're actually looking at your son as a man who's not going to be shit.
How can a woman raise a boy to be a good man? What do a woman know about being a man?
I mean, that's another topic for another day.
I'm sorry.
I get what you're saying, so many guys. I'm not going to shut you. Okay. But let me finish my point. Again, we have to, I think you said it a couple of weeks ago, we have to remember that when we're speaking about the father of our children, that is 50% of who your child is. And children hold on to things. And those things may mean as soon as that child can leave your bosom, mom, he's out that bitch, never to return. Because what you've told him are men ain't shit, my daddy ain't shit, and if I'm a man, I ain't shit. Watch the words you're saying, especially to your boys. They hear you. They feel you. They sense it. And that man is supposed to grow up and be somebody's husband one day. You're ruining your son to be someone's husband one day.
Yeah, I mean, I think your words are 100% accurate, but it just unfortunately makes me think of that lady that we watched on Kevin Samuels that was 50-something talking about she ain't ready to be married and her boys don't want to marry black women. And I'm just like, and she did not draw the correlation to the reason why her boys did not want to marry black women.
And no, it was even worse, because what she actually said is, my boys don't want to marry a woman like me.
Yeah, that's what she said.
And it was like, sis, do you hear what you're saying? Your boys have told you, we do not want to marry. Imagine your daughter says, I want to grow up and be nothing like you. I don't want any traits of you. Yes, I want to be nothing like you. That's essentially what her sons were saying. I don't want a woman that has any traits of who you are. And if they had finished the sentence, they would have said, because mom, you ain't shit.
Basically. That's pretty much
ouch. Exactly.
And she did not
get it.
The correlation at all.
Like, Kevin paused and he was like, are you hearing yourself? She's like, yeah. She repeated it again like it was nothing.
Because she thought she could do a better job at showing her sons what a man is than their father, basically. Like, seriously, like she was a boss chick. Yep. I would say she was a senior executive at a mid-level to major company, easily, just by her attitude and personality.
Yeah, so
but what does that actually mean?
95 to 140. Okay, yeah. let's.
But what's that actually mean?
So Pepper Seed said, I think sometimes women can be more sincere to a son more than her man. That is facts. I tell mothers, be mindful of how them treat and mistreat them sons. That is facts.
And here's another unfortunate thing that you have to say sometimes is to the moms, your son ain't your man. Like, he's not the man of the house. He's not none of that.
I don't ever get that.
He's not none of that.
While we do that, I'm going to just read some of our poll questions. And we actually had a couple of responses from people that I also want to read. So the first poll question was, ladies, are you comfortable discussing your mental health with family and friends? Yes, 38% of women. No, 62% of women. The same question to guys. Are you comfortable discussing your mental health with family and friends? 100% no. And then we asked another question. What's your biggest issue discussing your mental health? We got 3 responses. 1, my biggest issue was that it wasn't talked about, but it is now, so I'm happier, which is amazing. Awesome. I think COVID caused a lot of people to really be discussing mental health because, again, when people were locked down by themselves and the impact of that, I think, 2019 into 2020 and especially 2021, people were more open to that. So again, I asked the question again, what's your biggest issue with discussing your mental health? Judgment. And having my feelings minimized or diminished. The next answer, people not understanding me and miscommunication. And you want to know why that is?
Yeah, well, I saw a meme that was actually pretty insightful, kind of deep. And it was, y'all remember when Tyrese had his breakdown online, and he was like, we was clowning, what was it? It's like, what more do you want from me? And again, he was wrong. We don't know what Tyrese was going through behind the scenes, but Tyrese became kind of a clown and a meme, and it was like that. But he was real talk. He was having a breakdown. Like, do you think on his best day he would behave like that, or be caught on camera like that? You know what I mean? The man was melting down. And then our favorite meltdown king, Kanye. You know what I mean? We know everybody look at Kanye like, he's definitely got his struggles, and part of his issue is he doesn't seem to take them serious as they might actually be. But for a crazy person, Kanye says a lot of straight up stuff, though. You know what I'm saying? And I think the third one was, anyways, but the moral of the story was just, again, like, why are men uncomfortable talking about their mental health?
Because
like
you see,
100%, because they become memes. That was the
but when
result of
when
that.
Lizzo has a breakdown, everybody says protect Black women
and leave her alone.
Yeah,
I mean, and that's, we shouldn't make fun of people having breakdowns. Period.
No, but we're comfortable. No, that's not even, like, you're being really soft right now. Fuck that. Honestly.
Damn.
Enough is enough. Like, I'm sorry. I cannot begin to understand this idea that when a man expresses his feelings, he's to be made fun of, but when a woman expresses her feelings, we're supposed to hold her and make her warm, especially when she's made choices that caused her to have those feelings in the first place. We live in a world now where social media has a hashtag called Protect Black Women, yet there's nobody talking about protecting Black men. Instead, we have hashtags that saying Black men ain't shit. Like, enough is enough, because again, how are we raising young boys to be good men if we tell them that their daddies ain't shit? If we tell them your coach ain't shit, your daddy ain't shit, your grandpa ain't shit, the man down the street over there ain't shit, all men ain't shit, but son, I love you and you're the shit. How does that work?
That's absolutely insane. That boy is definitely going to have some issues growing up, because how's that even work? Like,
let me ask the ladies a question. Would you want your son to marry a woman like you?
Ooh, straight at the bullseye.
If your son could get up and choose out of a bunch of women, if he is one of those men that Kevin Samuels likes to call a high value man, and he's worked his way up to get to the point in his life and his career that he's a high value man to other men, forget women, other men respect him. Would you be the woman he would marry? A lot of you would out there be saying yes, but the fact is, if your son could say, he'd be like, hell no. Just like them sons told their mama, I don't want to marry a woman like you. And you need to truly ask yourself why. It's because you do not give the men in your life the space to express themselves without making it about you. You do not respect the men in your life. The men in your life only hold value to you in certain regards. It's just that simple. So enough of the shit. Like, I'm sorry, like, you're being all sweet and nice, and I'm over it. I'm gonna sit back, man.
I love the spice, and Pepper C gave me a great segue. Black men overlove their mother. That's a very deep statement right there. Here's a part of the things.
That's facts right there. Yes. Hello, that the new 50 show we were watching.
Here's a part about that thing with black men and their love for their mother. On a certain level, it's because we as black boys are brainwashed that our mothers were single because they ain't have no choice.
We all have a choice.
Right. Right. But we were brainwashed and taught and raised to look at them as if there was no other way other than to be a single mother. And that's, yeah, like you said, women are not accountable for their choices. We can really get into it now a little bit because let's talk about fatherhood some and men's mental health, because men's mental health consistently gets fucked up behind their kids. Many find out later why dad left. Absolutely. When you have the actual conversation as a man with your father, there's probably a little bit more understanding because A, you've been dealing with your mom your whole life, and B, you've been dealing with women most of your life.
Here's the thing, though, and hopefully people can hear me. Someone has to be the villain in the story. Mom is never going to be the villain in her story. It's her stories. And ladies, that is the fact. We are not trying to be the villain in our story. Therefore, daddy becomes the villain. We never tell our sons or our daughters, this is why daddy left my ass. Because I was an unappreciated fucking bitch. Which part of the story does that come in?
That's never going to be.
That's never going to be part of the story. Ever going to be part of the story.
Ever.
So when we're out there raising our children to believe that their fathers just one day got up and left them, that is not the reality. And when the children grow up and they're willing to do some critical thinking, or they find daddy or daddy finds them, it doesn't bode well for you. This more and more sons are separating themselves from their mothers because they realize that the choices that their mothers made impacted their life to the point that some of them will never be able to be the people that they were supposed to be, as their mother just kept it real with them and said, this is the reality. We don't want to face our reality. Women are coddling other women like, oh no, you had to leave him. That you had no choice. Yes, he told you he didn't want kids, but when you got pregnant, he was just supposed to stay.
Look here, like we said, we here segmenting into fatherhood. Let's keep it gangsters fuck right now. A man's choice at fatherhood stops at conception. How many men, and again, nobody has to confess to this, but is it hard to believe that in this times today, the conversation goes like this: I'm pregnant, I'm having the baby. What are you going to do about it?
That's
How's
why
that supposed to work?
Our son is going to have like plan B on his table in his college dorm room.
How's that supposed to work? So he can
give them women a plan B and they can swallow that shit before they leave the room. Like, I'm just going to keep it real. Women are going to hate me after this show. My nigga don't have a plan A. It is not a thing.
Hey, plan A ain't even dealing with them.
Yeah, right.
Like
exactly.
that. You know what I mean? Plan A.
You got to meet my mama first.
You looking to have a baby, I ain't dealing with you. But seriously, a man's choice ends at conception, because whether that woman carries that child to term, brings that child into the world, or aborts that fetus, that's completely 100% her decision. And that's just big facts. So a lot of these women, let me finish again, a lot of these women act like daddy was never around. Well, he never really was around. You just got pregnant. And rather than have a conversation like, again, we all saw the Tristan Trello Thompson situation unfold in front of our eyes. That man was adamant, I don't want another baby. But she had that child anyways, because Tristan got some money, and she was like, my child is going to be well taken care of, and me on top of it.
So Pepper C just made a point. A man that talks about fatherhood will accept a pregnancy. I agree. If you, as a woman, the men that I have dated in the past who talked about their desire to be a father, their desire to do that, I thought they would make good fathers. Good for them, for the women that they chose who wanted to be a mother. I didn't. Now, here was the part of it. Women hear that and they forget the most important question. Just because a man says he wants to be a father, doesn't mean he wants that baby to be with you.
Because let's be pretty straight up. I don't know of any, like, I know y'all, we're brainwashed into thinking that girls think about relationships and marriage and shit growing up, and boys think about whoring, and that's all we think about. You know what I'm saying? Like, how many chicks we gonna smash? That's so far from the fucking truth. Little boys imagine the life they want. And guess what? Especially if a nigga didn't have a daddy, chances are he wants to be a good father. But like she said, whether he wants to be a father to your child, does he want to have kids with you? That's a whole other situation. And too many times, a casual situation turned into a family.
Well, and there has to be accountability on both sides.
On both sides,
and
absolutely.
I think that's often, as women, we excuse our friends' behavior when they just pop up pregnant. And again, we turn it into no shit men. Where was her accountability? I made a decision at a very young age. I didn't want, once I had one baby, I wasn't going to have any more. My womb was closed. The baby factory was shut down at 21. And I talk about it in my new book, how difficult that was to be in a situation where at then 23, I was a single mother, saying to the men I would meet that they would not get a child from me. Wasn't gonna happen. I had made a choice, and I had to deal with the consequences of my choices. As women, when we make choices, we need to deal with the consequences of our choices. And unfortunately, let me tell you a story.
Damn,
I'm gonna tell you a story. I'm gonna tell you a story. So, I know a guy who, he's a hoe, and unfortunately, his hoeing has got him 5 different kids with 5 different baby mamas. Well, baby mama number 5 wasn't supposed to be. He drove her to the abortion clinic. He waited the allotted amount of time outside. I think he probably went around, came back at the time she was supposed to go in. She went in, changed her mind, got back into the car. He said his goodbyes. And then once the baby was born, because she did not have said abortion, that's when she let that man know he was now a father. That caused him to go and get snipped, because he thought, if I can be in a situation where a woman actually tricks me to the point where she goes to the abortion clinic and spends the 2 hours in there, and somewhere along the line changed her mind, got back in my car, and didn't care what the F. But who's paying for the baby? He is.
Him, them.
Because he's got a few dollars, and that's why she had the baby. Actually, he's got more than a few dollars. He's got quite a lot of dollars. And she had the baby because she saw that the other baby mothers were getting houses and thousands of dollars a month.
That's ridiculous.
Yes, damn. This is facts.
That's just ridiculous, but like I said.
But imagine what she's going to tell that, and it's a boy, that boy about daddy not being around as much.
As much?
He's not really around a lot, actually.
He
gives the baby money, and that's pretty much it. He doesn't play a huge role,
But let's go to another segment of it. A lot of times, like Peppa C said, if a relationship get to a year, baby is next. I wish I could disagree with that statement more, but the way that I see this thing going, that seems like, women are getting pregnant, deciding they're going to have this baby, and y'all don't even live together. Like, there's, like, the baby is the commitment. Well, but the baby ain't no commitment to no relationship. Like, that's the crazy part about it. A baby is just a commitment to bringing a child into this world.
But how does it, and I'm going to ask the guys a question. How does it affect your mental health to have a woman have a baby for you that you didn't want, and then create a narrative out on the street that paints you in not a favorable light? So again, how does it feel as a man to have a woman have a baby for you didn't want, but then paints you as a terrible man to anybody that will listen.
Just imagine how that feels. Like, I'm telling you from experience, that feels crazy. Because, again, babies don't make relationships better. They actually impact them negatively.
And I think we get that, but I really want to. I'm really serious about the question. How does forget the babies are here? They've had it. How does it affect your mental health? Because this is what this is about. How does it affect you?
It's terrible. I would say it's across the board. It's terrible for a man who wants to have an active role in fathering to be dealing with a situation where his ability to father that child is dependent on his ability to get along with that child's mother, and they should be separate. But only guys with resources and white people paperwork are afforded that luxury.
And thank you for the answer, because I think I wanted women to hear that. I wanted women to understand that as much as we quote unquote have the burden of being single mothers, when we cut out the fathers out of the children's life, they are impacted. And that impacts the children.
And here's the thing, and one of my partners gave me this, one of my OGs actually, and it was a statement that he brought up, and he's like, "This is I actually, when I think of you, I actually say that," and it was in a situation that I was going through, and he was kind of bearing witness to the situation, and he was like, "Yo, bro, like, I want to ask that lady mama, like, what man in her life do he fall short to?" And that's the thing, a question, fellas, that can shut a lot of this shit down sometimes. Like, when that woman is tripping, ask her, what man in your life do I fall short of? And it's sad almost, because I would love if that was like, oh, my daddy, my granddaddy, my Uncle Terry, then that's like, okay, either you got a lot of solid ass men in your family, or you just really not doing all of that much. It's somewhere there's a discrepancy, right? But if that answer is like crickets, then you should definitely be getting celebrated, dog. You know what I'm saying? Like, how many men have been in a situation with a woman where she's told you about situations where niggas have treated her worse than you treat her, but somehow it seems like she treated them better than she's treating you? She's also talked about that too. And again, I think that's, of course, we have to be accountable for our choices as men. Absolutely. But I also think, like, we were led to believe that the pool was a lot deeper than it actually is.
So Pepper Seed has a question, and I'm going to answer it first, and then I'm going to have Rob answer it. Isn't it hormones and emotions that control women, especially if they get pregnant? Let me answer first. Yes, we understand that women have hormones. When we go through our monthly cycle and when we are pregnant, those hormones are elevated. However, we determine how we act, not the hormones. Our hormones do not control us. It is bullshit when women say it's my hormones. The new thing in the modern era that everybody wants to talk about is postpartum. Every single woman who acts crazy these days have postpartum. No, we do not. Not every woman suffers from postpartum, but a lot of women suffer from bad fucking behavior because we excuse bad behavior from women.
Yep.
Okay? Hormones do not control us. It is very, very rare and you can talk to doctors. It is very rare that hormones are just such elevated that they're controlling the choices that we make. We control the choices, the words that come out of our mouth, and all of that. And just like Sorlin Sage said, men have hormones too. So, yes,
guys' emotions.
True Ace music. Guys' emotion spikes more than a woman, but we seem to not see that.
Well, because we're also taught that you can't just go behaving. Every guy understands on a certain level, fuck your feelings. You got to put your feelings aside, and you got to either get the job done, or you got to do what you got to do, or you got to get that money, or you, whatever. We tend to forget that anger is definitely an emotion.
That's what exactly what I was about to say.
Yes.
That is how men express their emotions, because True Ace, you weren't on earlier when Rob said, when men have often tried to express their emotion in another way, they're told, stop being sensitive. And so men express their emotions through anger and violence, because that's how they then get attention. Because when you sit down with your woman and you're like, babe, listen, I need to have a conversation. This has been going on with me. And you start downloading. She's like, really? Okay, but tell her about her fucking clot and her this. Most women will stop, and it's just like, all of a sudden she's paying attention to you. Well, guess what? It's just like when you reward children for bad behavior. Guess what they keep doing? Bad behavior. So when a woman now all of a sudden is rewarding you for that explosive behavior, you realize that's the language I need to speak to her in to have her hear me.
Yeah. Pepper C says, men are called bitch ass nigga. I'll say it for you. Men are called bitch ass nigga for showing emotions. I agree with that. But here's the caveat to that, I think, that where that, I think, tends to really go into effect. And again, that term is thrown out there really loosely right now. But it's like, men understand that you can have your emotions, and you should. God, it would be wonderful, but men should have a space to express those emotions. But when men start to act on their emotions is where it becomes problematic, because that's when it gets kind of ugly. That's when they put you on the bus and send you to the place behind the walls. You know what I mean? When you start acting out of your anger. Well, here's something I was told literally by a mental health professional. Mental health issues are not an excuse for bad behavior.
This is facts.
Mental health professionals understand this, but I think the common layperson doesn't. So again, she just had the baby, so we deal with this. Look, I remember going through a point. I had the black man trifecta. I was laid off. Shorty was pregnant, and it was like just what else could be going wrong? You know what I'm saying? And like, that's a tough space to be in when you're used to handling certain situations, and all of a sudden your ability to handle those situations is compromised. Then that's when a lot of guys, though, you get to see who's really built to be around you and support you and all of that. Because I just told that to a friend the other day. I just found out he lost a job, and I was like, yeah, one of that's rough, that's tough. It's gonna be a mug, but one of the benefits of that is you get to see what's what and who's who in your life. Because again, if this is definitely the point where if she ain't about you, she's gonna dip on you. You know what I'm saying? You should already know that.
Okay, so there's a whole conversation happening that I wanted you to stop. So thank you for stopping.
Okay.
Filmstar 13 says, let's call it out. Black women don't like their men to show too much emotion. Sorlin Sage says, totally untrue. Filmstar 13 says, facts. And Sorlin Sage said, maybe the women you know. Shrug emoji.
Shrug emoji. Oh, so we had a whole little discourse right there.
So,
and
I'm going to be clear. I don't think it's just black women. I think women as a whole have been given a message that emotions are a female trait. And that's the difference. It's not about not showing, it's that emotions are a female trait. And unfortunately, because you are being taught that emotions are a female trait. When a man of any race shows emotion, it can be interpreted very differently. Now, when we talk specifically to black men are seen in our world, when we look at the hierarchy of men, in toughness and virility at the top of the totem pole. Therefore, when a black man shows emotion, instead of a lot of us embracing it, we go, you're supposed to be at the top of this totem pole. What the F are you doing not fucking your feelings? And that becomes the discourse. So I'm going to be clear. I don't think it's black women. I think society has given us a narrative or painted a narrative that emotions are a female trait. And that is often what we're seeing. So
yeah, go ahead and
we're wishing a couple of comments here. Okay, go ahead, Robert.
Sorlin Sage states, I appreciate a guy who has a handle on his emotions and can express himself whether in sadness, happiness, anger, or joy. And then Pepper C followed up with, I had to be vulnerable a few times in the past few weeks. To be honest, I felt like my head was going to bust if I didn't. I understand that. And it's good that you can recognize that you needed to be vulnerable. Well, here's the thing that I think for men, and it is definitely, there's a happy medium. There's a range. Because and I'm speaking about myself, and I see it, we definitely need to expand that range that we express our emotions out of. But at a certain point, a woman is looking at a man like a man's behavior, though, is to spend more energy in your actions than in your feelings. A woman gets to spend more energy towards her feelings than her actions if she's in the right situation. That's why women tend to want to be taken care of so that they can harness those feelings, because those feelings can be very productive and very lucrative even. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think men understand, well, a smart man understands that. You know what I'm saying? But at the flip for a man is like, if I'm sitting around spending, sipping the tea with her all day long, that means I'm not getting some shit done. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's where women start to be like, whoa, partner. Like, it definitely, but it's almost like, especially black men, I feel like we ain't giving very much space, if any, to express any of that shit. I'm finally in a relationship where I am able to, when things get rough, but I don't think women understand what the cost of being a provider is. Like, we've had these conversations, you know what I'm saying? Like, the only time she knows when we got really financial troubles is when she asks me for money and I say either it's less than that or I can't give it to you at all. That's her only indicator of it. She never goes to reach for the power and it's not on. There's certain things she just doesn't experience. Now, what I got to go through to make sure it stays like that is stuff that I don't always want to burden her with. And I think we both are appreciative of that. Is that accurate? Because that's a part of how I protect her. You know what I'm saying? When she sees, I don't want her to get the mail. I don't want none, because she's like, why is this envelope pink? That looks like, I'm like, you know what I'm saying? I don't, none of it, but she's happier in that space. For real. And I think that's where men get frustrated, is because we do so much to try to protect our families that we don't do more to protect ourselves. And that's where I think it gets, why guys sometimes feel like like Pepper C said, he had to just express his shit or his head was going to bust. Or just come home and kick the baby and smack her. And that's totally unacceptable in the modern world.
So Pepper Seed is saying, it seems like a woman with a father understands better.
Yes.
Sorlin Sage, our sponsor, is saying single mothers with no support truly understand the provider role.
Ooh, that's a deep statement there. I'm
going to speak as a single mother who was a great provider.
Okay, I'm going to let you do that.
So I get that statement. I don't actually completely agree. So I think what is interesting about being a single mother and being the provider for your child is there are always resources for single mothers if we so choose to use them. I got a lot of advice of resources that I should use that I never did for my own reasons, but there's always some recourse or way to help us if we are not huge providers. I happened to be at the time a very big provider. I made sure of it. I made, according to Kevin Samuels, I think I'd be in the top 9% of earners by the time I was like 30, and had my daughter at 21. So she lived a really good life. But I also knew that if I wasn't in a position to support her, there were recourses. There was the court system to get child support, and there was the welfare system if I so chose to use it. There were all of these recourses that would help me to be a better provider. A man doesn't have the same recourses. And if I wasn't in the picture, Rob would be a single father. And I don't think Rob has the same recourses I would. And so the providing, yes, I understand being a provider. I understand making sure a roof was put over our head. I don't think it's the same. It's just not at the same level. The welfare system was created for us as women to be able to utilize it. If we look at, I've seen generations of women in my hood live in the same subsidized apartment. And I mean generations, from the grandmother to the mother and to the now child. They have gone through the subsidized system. I don't know any man who lived in a subsidized housing with their mother that's still there with his kids or with his wife. It's not the same. And I would love to go out there and champion and say, yes, I get it. My last job, I was making close to $90,000 a year. So I definitely know I haven't made under $60,000. I was 30, I think, the last time I made less than $60,000 a year. I'm 42 now. So yeah, I get the hustle and the bustle, but I guarantee you, sitting here beside him in the seat, it is not the same hustle and bustle as for a black man. So, and again, I can only speak for a black man.
Well, here, I'm going to just simplify it a whole lot.
And if a black man went on welfare, let's be clear, we would look at him effing sideways.
Absolutely. Now, here, I'm going to simplify it and take it outside of the singleness. Listen here. A male providing for his family is able to eat that energy, and he doesn't have... That's kind of considered what it's supposed to be. A single, so now we're saying in a couple where the woman is the head of household and the provider, that man has no space to be a man in that situation. You feel what I'm saying? He's 100% emasculated in that. And you see here, and here's a prime example of it. Again, we're in the space that I work in corporate America, where there's a lot of earners, and a lot of them, I hear about their issues with their men, and it's obvious that they chose their men. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, here's here's an almost stereotypical situation. She works, she makes the money, he stays home, deals with the kids or whatever, right? She bought him a PlayStation. And then you sit there and complain about all the nigga do is play the PlayStation that you bought him. That's the type of stuff that happens when a woman chooses a man. Because there's no way, if that man was empowered, he would let you choose him. He would have had to choose you. And it's very, very, very different.
I don't think that really answered the question, but sure. You just kind of went on a tangent. But
I'm saying that's why I don't think that, again, I'm sorry. I think that almost falls into the, a single mother as a provider does not, I don't think it's the same thing as a man providing for an entire family and the circumstances surrounding both.
Okay, well that's more of the answer. Yeah, sorry, you just went on a bit of You tend to do that.
No, I mean, because that's why I tried to take it away from the singleness, but that's cool. Like, and part of it is, again, let's stop faking jacks. I believe firmly in my heart, I always give the advice to anyone that would ask. That's why I've been through some of the shit that I've been through, is that when there's kids involved, you stay as long as you can. Like, there's no, I don't, like, there's, when there's kids involved, that's the only reason you would stay past your welcome. You know what I'm saying? But it doesn't fix nothing. But we have come up in this society saying that single parents can produce complete people, and I don't really agree with that. I think that the most complete people in this society were raised by a male and a female, or two different people. I don't even give a fuck.
So let me ask you
some type of duality
question. I had to come close so I know people can hear me. And this is for the men. Because I know a lot of men have gone through that idea of staying. At what point is staying for the children not enough?
Once he figures it out that kids are not a reason to stay in a bad relationship.
That's it?
That's really it. No one else can determine that for that man, because there's some men that will stay indefinitely and cope in other ways. You know what I'm saying? But that's where it comes to saying, like, it's cheaper to keep her.
Yeah, that was my daddy's saying.
You know, it's like, it's not an ideal relationship, but the cost of getting out of this relationship is higher than the cost of me just doing whatever I'm going to do.
So, again,
because a man is going to find, he's going to figure it out some way, somehow.
So you just said a word, cost. And so I guess this is for the men. What is the price of your mental health?
That's the question of the night. What is the cost of your mental health?
What price would you put on your mental health?
I would say
men only. And I'm curious. I would love for men to truly answer that.
I think that's something that we have got to get better at and acknowledge is one of the most important things that we can do as black men is take not only our mental health, our physical health. Like, we're just taught to grind, you know what I'm saying? Like, we don't give a fuck about doctors. We hustle till we drop dead, basically, as black men. Like, that's kind of how we're conditioned. Just fucking grind. Your prostate can fall out, put that shit back in and get back to business. You know what I'm saying? Like, we don't be seeking health like, again, niggas have health coverage for their whole family and won't go to the doctor himself. So
Twin Zinc has said no number, and Filmstar 13 said there's no price I wouldn't put on my mental health. Here is the thing. Is this being expressed to the women in your lives? Your mama, your sisters, your auntie, your baby mama if you got one, your wife, your grandma. Because whether we like it or not, our community doesn't hold a very high price for black men's mental health. Oof.
Ooh, yeah. Twin Zinc, I was just about to say, Twin Zinc said they don't care, and I was going to say, men know that, and we've responded by boundaries. I'm not going to beg my grandma to treat me better. What I will do is put a barrier up so that she doesn't get to treat me that way, and I'd rather be felt like it's a situation of neglect or abandonment than it is my mental health is being impacted in a way that I'm not even able to move forward in life.
So Sorlin Sage is asking a question, and this is before I respond to that. Is it cultural? Because I know guys who are very proactive about their health, and especially mental health as of late. And I don't know if Sorlin Sage was on where I said 2019 going to 2020, especially when COVID hit. 2020, a lot of people opened up their eyes to mental health, especially men. I put a stat out when I was promoting the show, the fact that a research just showed that when it came to black men were committing suicide 4 times more than black women. I'm going to repeat that. Black men are committing suicide 4 times more than black women.
Listen, bro.
So, hold on. Should there not be a hashtag that says protect black men at all cost?
I mean, that's a very ridiculous statistic. I'm glad you opened my eyes to that. Since you speak of that, I can speak. I'm just gonna speak from my own personal experience. And the first time I ever had what would quote unquote be suicidal thoughts was me sitting there going through a really rough period financially where, again, I'm working 40 hours plus a week. It ain't that I'm not working, but I'm having a very difficult time financially. I've got garnishment going on. There's all this crazy stuff going on. And I got my HSA statement, blah, blah, whatever that HSA? Was, or whatever. Health insurance statement, whatever. Da, 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 da. And I was just reviewing it, and it was a segment about my life insurance. And I looked, and I realized I was worth more dead than I was alive. And that impacted my mental health significantly. I can honestly say that.
I went through something very similar when I went through my moments of the same thing, and I looked at my insurance and I thought the value that I hold to my daughter, because she gets 100% of anything when I die, it's much higher than me being dead. Then what the hell? Thank God I had a friend who ensured that I didn't act upon that. Nami, when she realized that I was going through some stuff, she would actually come to my house unexpectedly and sit there for hours and make sure that Tran was home and then leave, and then I would go to bed. But I can only imagine for a man who's expected to provide, especially when you're not feeling the support. I think that video said it a lot. There are men who feel that being on the streets is much better for them than being at home. I want you to think about that, ladies. Some of the men in your life would rather take their chances on the streets and stay with the streets than come home to you. Why? It ain't because they're out there running and digging out every woman. That's where they have created a safe space for themselves. Are we as women creating safe spaces for the men in our life? And there's a whole conversation.
Oh yeah, I see. There's a lot more men that don't take care of themselves properly. The men that do take care of themselves more are usually married, or have deeper connections. You know what I'm saying? It's a reason why the United States has never had a single bachelor president. People don't trust single dudes. Like, at a certain point in your life as a man, it's kind of like, where your chick at? Like, how can you be a great man and you ain't got no woman? Like, no woman vouches for you being a great man. Like that, it's kind of all that shit kind of goes in hand. So then, Pepper C said, I thought of not waking up, but my boys made me think differently. Twin Zing added in facts on what Pepper C just said. Work around the clock. And then Film Star added in, married men go through it the worst. And we got one more comment coming in from Sorrel and Sage, but we're just going to take a moment to add into that conversation there.
I got to digest on what Twin Zing just said.
Married men go through it the worst. I think it depends on the nature of that union, that relationship. Or you could almost say that men in relationships, it either goes very good or it goes... Look, we're discussing it. The right person can take your life in an extremely positive direction. And the wrong person can take your life in an extremely negative direction. That's just how it is. And we really don't always know until that person has a chance to sprinkle their mojo into your life. So we just got to choose wiser, actually.
I was just going to say that. And I'm going to quote Uncle Kevin Samuels. All the women probably moaned. Men initiate 100% of the marriages. So I'm going to ask the question to men. If you're initiating 100% of marriages, what goes into the choices you make of the women you choose as your wives? What conversations are you having? Are you even discussing with that woman? What does she see the role as a wife? Rob and I were talking about that just last night. And I said, because of the state that we're in right now, especially with black men's lives are at stake every day, including their mental health. Again, the stat says 4 times more than black women. So men, you have to make a decision about the woman you are going to choose as your wife. When you are looking at a potential spouse, does how she defines the role of a wife the same as how you want your wife? Oof.
How you choose different when 10 years in people change. There's a certain accuracy to that, but there's also a certain accuracy in that when we choose wiser, we tend to choose with people that the alignment is more natural, so you grow in the same direction.
Because, and we've talked about this before, and as we start thinking about the vulnerability of black men, because again, the title of the show, he is crying inside, can you hear him? I chose that for a reason. You guys face a certain uncertainty every day. Every day you go outside as a black man, you face a level of uncertainty. And you have to choose a woman who is there to ensure that you are coming home at night. I give Rob his space, but at a certain point, I'm just like,
can't be served too many nights in a row.
Not even that. At a certain time, I'm just like, I'm now concerned because I haven't heard from him. You want to know that someone will shout to, hey, my man hasn't come home. Hey, you need to be like, hey, my man, my man, my man. Right? And I think when you are choosing wives, because again, I don't choose a husband. My husband chooses me. If Rob is choosing me, he needs to consider all of the things we want. We talk so much about women and what women want. Men, as part of putting a price on your mental health, you have to ensure that there is a woman out there that is worth the price of your mental health. Listen, marriages are going to go through seasons. Up and down, twin zinc. Marriages are going to go through seasons. But I spoke about this a couple of weeks ago. When I look at the totality of someone's life, or you look at the totality of your relationship, if it's more bad than good, it's up to you to determine what your next step is. Oh, Lord.
Twizzy go hard. He said, think about a kid who wants something. Example, V-Bucks. They will do everything under the sun to get what they want. After they get it, then they act normal. Marriage. I can't even say that there's 100% fallacy in that, or that there's even 50%. Like there's certain accuracy to that. But again, I think that's where sometimes our choices have got to factor in how a person is, like, truly assess how that person is built. You know what I'm saying? Because the relationship is only going to go as far as the man takes it. That's the natural state of it. Would you agree with that?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how far we go in life is not dependent on her. So, I get it that for a woman who acts like, there's really nothing proactive that you can do than that, other than, I would like to think that there were some red flags that a person was just being a fraud, essentially, because that's what it takes.
You can only sustain.
So yeah,
you
to
can
be
only
fake long enough to get what you want,
for,
and then just.
You can only sustain fake for too long, and I get that there are bad experiences, right? And we can watch enough Kevin Samuels to know that women will have one experience with a man, and then all of the 3 point whatever billion men in the world are all bad. That can be said. If the same of people in bad marriages. But the reality is, and this is why someone asked Rob and I a question the other day, and they said, oh, so your relationship is more like a business? And we said, yes. We love each other. There is no doubt. However, we have a very practical relationship. Just like two companies merging together, we understood that coming together, what would that look like? And if we didn't pass the viability test on each side, we would not be here. Just like you have to qualify for a job, people should be able to qualify for a relationship. And as a man, if there's certain traits that you need in a woman, should you not be ensuring that you're finding those traits in her? A woman who Rob said, you know, what did you say earlier? Because that was really good. Like women, something about coming out of their mouth. God, I wish I had recorded that. But he said something about women they're concerned about, I guess, their bottom lips, but not the lips that they use to spew words, right?
Yeah, them the most important lips, though.
Those are the most, like, again, if you value respect in a relationship, but then you will allow a woman to disrespect you, then guess what? You're now in a disrespectful relationship. If you value your mental health, but the woman in your life doesn't even believe that black men can have mental health issues, that's probably not the woman you would choose. If having a conversation about how you feel turns into how you've made her feel, then you need to consider, again, if men are choosing wives, then you need to choose the type of women. Rob chose of his first wife, and I told him that was his problem. You got what you got. Because his first interaction with her should have told him all he needed to know. Mm-hmm. When he told me that story, I thought, okay, so you never spoke to her again. He's like, no, I married her. Well, then you get what you get. When you allow someone to treat you in a certain way and you ignore those signs and it goes against everything, then who is that on? When men, you have to value yourselves. When you think about it, I know we live in a female-centric world. It's gotten to the point where Adele is saying that she loves being a woman, and all of a sudden, you know, trans women are coming. Like, we live in this world that it's like, all of this stuff is all related to women. But as a man, come on.
Here's the thing.
That's a good
Twins
one.
Inc. as a great question.
That's good.
What is the right requirement for choosing a wife and a husband?
Not love.
Not love. Absolutely not. And I'm gonna say this, and it's gonna sound like an ambiguous answer, but it really isn't. Remember how we were saying, if you believe in a traditional relationship, you need to pick a woman who believes in a traditional relationship. If you believe in a partner's 50-50 relationship, you need to choose a woman that believes in a partner's 50-50 relationship. If you believe that if y'all get into a point where you don't agree, but there's a fork in the road, so a decision has to be made, I think that's a real question y'all should have early in the relationship. Which way are we going?
So, fork in the road. Your woman says goes this way. You say go that way.
Which way do y'all really go?
Which way do you go?
And from my experience, we're going my way, because if that's the wrong way, I'd rather take the blame for what was actually my decision than let you go your way, and that's the wrong way. And now we're still the wrong way. And now what I'm doing. I told you so. I told you so isn't a good place for a guy in a traditional relationship.
Yes, film star. Yes, love is still involved.
Oh,
listen,
yeah, of course.
Do not think listen, I love this man to the moon and back. We got very fortunate to have found each other. But I have to tell you, I'm being very open. Rob knows this. Love in each other wasn't necessarily on the top of the list of why we're here today. It was more in the middle. It definitely wasn't at the bottom. At least for me, babe, it was in the middle. It was the reality that if I merge my life with this person, do they meet the requirements that I feel are necessary to be my next husband? I'd already been in a marriage. I understood why I failed in that marriage. We both failed in that marriage. I understand why I had failed in previous relationships. And I had to know that when I merged myself, the viability of being in this relationship was to ensure that our trajectories was going up, not down. So yes, I loved him. Listen, he's handsome. He's 6'9", pro basketball player, smart as a whip, all of that great stuff. But all of that could have happened. He could have been a real jackass. Or he and I just were not on the same page of how we saw a union coming together. And so, yes, I agree, love has to be on the list. But I want you to look up a stat. Do you know, after this, so you can look it up now, that arranged marriages have a higher success rate than traditional marriages where you choose your own partner? Do people understand that? Arranged marriages. So marriages that are in countries like India or Pakistan, where their parents are coming together and choosing for them to be together, where sometimes they have not even seen each other, that they have a higher success rate than people who, ooey-gooey, fall in love and then get married. Why is that?
I think...
And the men are happier.
I like Twins Inc. This guy is making a point. He said female or male will play the role until they get what they want. Who keeps husband and wife accountable in marriage? You do. That's, at the end of the day, you do. Here's the thing. Ain't no guarantees in nothing that we do. If you are in a relationship and that relationship progresses to a marriage and that person was just playing a role, and the moment that you got in that marriage, they said, I'm not playing that role no more, then you should also say, then me neither, and terminate that marriage immediately. You know what I'm saying? Because that's disrespectful to play a role and then be a fraud. Being a fraud is disrespectful. You know what I mean? So again, there is absolutely no guarantee to it, but the only way you're going to find out is to find out. And I think that when we choose a little better, when those alignments are there, when those directional growths are in the same direction, when you guys are pursuing similar things, when you have similar tastes, when you have similar philosophies, it's easier than when there's a lot of discrepancies. No two people are ever going to get along 100% of the time, but you should try to find yourself at least in a marriage type of situation. That's why that's why we're saying love ain't got nothing to do with it. Agreement got everything to do with it. We agree most of the fucking time.
We do. Let me just say, Twins Inc., the only guaranteed thing in life is death. Nothing is 100% guaranteed. That job that you have, the economy isn't guaranteed. Look at inflation rate. Your mama needing to love you isn't guaranteed. Nothing is guaranteed. The only thing that guaranteed is death. Every day we wake up, we are taking chances and making choices. Sometimes we make good choices and sometimes we make bad choices. But what we do know is we have to live with the consequences of said choices, and we have to decide if the pros outweigh the cons when we make our choices. And that also comes with the people we choose. Are the people we choose the people we will need 10 years from now? Is Rob the man I will need 10 years from now? I don't know that.
Hope so, but
we hope so. In the last part of my book was watch our journey. Fuck if I know what will happen. But I know right now I'm committed to the commitment of this relationship. But there's absolutely no guarantee. Oh, Lord.
He said that's why I educated my young men don't get married. No accountability.
Good luck with that.
I ain't going to say I disagree with that 100%. I think that... I believe that the marriage and coupling ain't... I think they're fairly synonymous. If I'm catching what I'm thinking he's saying, I hope you're not advising them to not be in relationships, though. To not be in long-term... committed relationships, because whether you choose to get married, quote unquote, the white people's paperwork, that's to your business. You know what I'm saying? But I truly and deeply feel that everything great in life you don't get to experience until you've joined your life with somebody else, whether that's hetero, homo, or whatever other options are out there.
Let me just talk money first for a fact. Every successful entrepreneur is married, or in a coupling, as Rob just called it. There are very few single successful entrepreneurs. even the gulliest of rappers will tell you, finding a good woman in their life to steer them a little bit is the reason they are not one of the former broke rappers.
Yeah, that's what she's saying. I'm saying be in a relationship, don't get married is what I'm saying. I'm like, I can't 100% disagree with that. To everybody's situation is a little different. Again, we look at her. She's still a big fan of marriage. I get it because there's also a certain aspect of when you're not married, it's as simple as you go your way and I go mine. And that's a part of the problem. It's too easy to leave the relationship when you're not married. And you don't really build up that resiliency that it takes to have that long-term relationship, maintain and keep going. You know what I mean?
Here's the thing. That's fine if you're also with a person, Twins Inc., who does not want to get married. I think the problem arises is when people try to get into relationships with people that want opposite of what they are, and they're trying to convince the other of what they want. So I had a particular situation, again, 21 years old, not wanting any more children, single by the time I was 23, and dating men who thought that all I have to do is love you and show you that I'm a provider and you're going to have my baby. No, the fuck I didn't, because I'm 42, still with one biological child. I had made a decision. I was steadfast in my decision, and nobody, and I've dated some good quality men, including men with a very large bank account, they couldn't convince me to have another baby. So if you don't believe in marriage, getting with someone who also has that viewpoint is important. The problem is when we get with people, and it's in every relationship, if you get with somebody who does not have the same values and views that you have, that's when you get into issues. You can be married without going through the legal system. We are.
Yeah, and I'm like, and
Rob is like, this is my wife. This is not. I mean, we're not legally married yet, but I'm saying, he tells that to people.
And that's, I think how she said it is even better. Marriage is one of those things that you guys can't be on an equal footing on. If you're abjectly against it and she's abjectly for it, one of y'all are going to have to give, and ultimately one of you are going to be disappointed about something that's kind of significant or major, you know.
And you're triggering mental health issues.
So,
like, you imagine that being in this constant tug of war of, but I don't want, but I want, but if you love me, like, imagine what that does. Oof. Film star said, "What's wrong with marriage at Twins Inc.? Come to the Twins Inc. Tell us what's wrong."
I can just off of his commentary though. It's been Twins Inc. is of the ilk, and it's a legitimate perspective that people can do what it takes to be married, and then once they get married, they fall slack on their behaviors, i.e., the whole, whether it's a male or a woman. Unfortunately, a lot of people gain weight in a marriage. That's probably not the best thing to do.
You're talking about some shallow stuff. I'm gonna give people some. Hold on, give me a second. I'm gonna give you some real about my first marriage. And despite what happened in my first marriage, I didn't use the mistakes of that man to put it on this man. So let's talk about my first marriage for a second. I got married in May 17th, 2008 to a man who was in the military. I remember when I got married to my husband, when we walked back outside the door, he picked up the paper that we had, and he says, "I have papers on you now." In that moment, I kind of looked, but I thought, whatever, not a big deal. I think about it now, literally, walked back down the aisle, husband and wife, took our marriage certificate that they had given us and said, "I have papers on you now." I found out said husband had a baby May the 30th of 2008. You did hear what I said. We got married on May the 17th. On May 30th, another woman had his baby. I then found out later, after that he had an affair with said woman after I found out about the baby. I then heard later that he may have fathered twins with another woman, which is when I decided to leave him. Listen, now when my ex-husband was courting me, this was a man who was stationed in England who had found a florist in Toronto where I was living to send me flowers because I had had a bad day and teddy bears. He went full force. So Twins Inc. Women go through very similar things. But what we cannot do, men and women, is use one situation to define the rest of our life. Rob doesn't get to pay for the mistakes of my ex-husband, and I do not get to pay for the mistakes of his ex-wife. Those were choices that we both made. Now in the later part of our years, we're making different choices. Why? Because we had to acknowledge the choices we made. People don't do things to us that we do not allow them to do. Yes, does it suck that my husband had 1, maybe 3 babies on me? Yes. If I had stayed with him and made that choice to do so and he went and did what he did, that would have been on me. That wouldn't have been on him. I had seen him for what he was. The moment my husband showed me who exactly he was, I left. But that was that man, not this man. That wasn't an indictment on marriage. It was an indictment on our marriage.
And honestly, it's not an indictment on you. Like, that's what another thing we got to unpack is that when we have shit go bad in relationships, we wear a lot of guilt behind it as men, especially, you know what I'm saying? We feel like if we would have did things differently, maybe the relationship would have run a different course. Because that's kind of the nature of being in the position of leadership. You know, it's only on Wall Street does the CEO get to go, well, everybody else wasn't doing their job. That's why we're in this situation. Like, in the home, as CEO, your job is to make sure everybody is doing their job. You know, that your wife is being a wife, that your kids are being kids, and that you being you. You know,
I love this. So I've got to read this interaction because, Rob, you are getting some points here. So Twins Inc. said Rob's on point. Peppa C said a wife is equal to a mother. She has power. Gotta pick wisely. Film Star said Rob is not on point. Sorry, Rob. Candy Goldie Rose says marriage is a beautiful thing. Twins Inc. says to Peppa Seed, what does that mean? So our mother is not a good woman. Film Star says, yes, I agree. Marriage is a beautiful thing. Twins Inc. says to Film Star, Rob understands what I'm saying. And Peppa Seed says to Twins Inc., no, power over our lives. If we get sick, can decide if our life is on the line. A good mother takes care of her son. Why you think mothers and wives be clashing, especially if she's mistreating the son? Twins says we're talking about men's mental. As soon as I say don't marry, deflection activated. Twins Inc. says marriage mash up enough men. Film Star said Twins Inc. some people slack off after the thrill of the chase is over. That has nothing to do with marriage. That's on the individual. Some people get married and they're not mentally ready. Facts. That was my whole story. Candy Goldie Rose says life is full of experiences and learning. You can't hold on to the bad, but tune in on the good and take that. Go into new experience, not focusing on the negativity. And Film Star says because it comes with burdens. Candy Goldie Rose also says let that hurt go.
Okay, here's another little piece. Would you agree with this statement, audience? There's a big difference in getting a person than keeping that person.
Yes, I would agree.
A lot of people are good at getting somebody to like them, but they're not so good at maintaining that person's like for them. They ain't even getting into love.
But here is the thing. A marriage is a job. It's a job. It's a job. Marriage is a job. Job. People. J-O-B.
You have to work in order to get better at it.
You have to work to sustain it. When you go to work every day, your boss is not going to pay you just for showing up. You have to do something. You get promotion because you went over and above what was necessary. This is what you do. It's a job. I don't know why we get into marriages and it's like we go and we slack off and we think, oh no, I'm good now. It's a job. Every single day you have to put in. You have to clock in and you have to clock out. Marriages don't just happen. This relationship doesn't just happen. It takes work. A lot of it. Especially on my side.
That's the bullshit right there.
I'm joking.
Yeah,
God, it was funny. Can I have my moment?
Yeah, you're funny, but I'm like, but that's part of the person. You're always gonna think you're the person doing the most work in the relationship. Like that's. I don't think. Yeah, that's always the case. But at the same time, if you're sitting there acting in the relationship like you're the only person that's doing all the work, then that's not gonna be good for you. You have to appreciate the other person too. You gotta work hard and appreciate the other person.
And this is why it comes back to my question. He's crying. Can you hear him? I'm always gonna come back to that. Part of that work is being in tune with your partner. It's funny how we are okay with going into job interviews and putting on our best selves and tap dancing for our corporations, but somehow we come home and we're lackadaisical about the most important relationship we're in. And I get where Twin Zinc is coming from. And you're entitled to have your views about marriage. But if you look at anything other than the fact that marriage is a job, that is the problem. That is where people get lackadaisical. It's a goddamn job, and it is the hardest job you will ever have is marriage and being in a family.
Facts. And I love the comment Pepper C made. People was together 15 years, married for 2 years, get divorced. Why? Because the marriage was treated as a destination. It was treated as an ending point rather than a beginning point. You dig what I'm saying? Too many people want to look at, you got to do all this work to get married, and then
relax.
The work stops. And that is not accurate. That's a recipe for divorce. And that's literally why half of marriages end up in divorce, because only half people know what the hell they're even doing. Again, most people want to get married for the benefits, but they don't like the costs of marriage. And marriage has costs. Every relationship has costs. You can't be in a relationship and still act like you're not, because the other person is not going to appreciate that very much.
Well, this is why Sorlin Sage is our sponsor. She understands us very well, because this is the premise of Rob's and I relationship. We choose each other every day. Even though Rob likes to say some days I don't choose him till noon, I still choose him. It is an everyday. We get up every day and we do this over and over. And what we also do is we have relationship check-ins. Okay? We check in with each other. Are things on track? Are they going the way that we wanted them to? Yes. Is there anything that needs to be changed, improved? No. How do we ensure we're getting back on track? Do we both agree on the track that we want to be on? And this happens all the time. I'm not saying we do it every 6 months. I mean, like, it's probably every 2 weeks, every month. We literally have a check-in. Are things we recently decided we wanted to get out of the state that we're in. Yeah, we had to check in with each other about what states are we considering? What are the criteria for that? What does it mean when we move? What could be the impact of that? We had to rate the states. Luckily, we were completely, and this is why we knew we were aligned. We were completely aligned on where we wanted to be.
Here's why we work, and that's the difference of it. And that's why, again, when you're making those choices, you want a lot of alignment in that relationship if you're talking about marriage and going the distance and long term. Because if it's just sexy, then that sexy can fade. If it's just smart, well, what if they're acting like a dumbass? If it's they got a good job, well, what if they lose that job? You know, if it's all of these conditional situations, then if those conditions start to change, then all of a sudden the relationship is in a totally different place. This woman has a checklist of, like, if we watch 10 news stories, we'll have a similar perspective on 9 of them. That's why we work beyond love. And that's for real, for real.
We can literally finish each other's sentences.
The same thing. We see shit very similarly. We're also very independent, very different people. She looks at me like, you're from a different planet. I look at her like, you're from a different planet. But when we look at y'all, we see the same thing.
And our differences make us special, and they make us fight harder sometimes, I think, for our relationship, because we understand that, where I'm strong usually is a place where he's weak, and I get to compensate for that. Mm-hmm. Rob always says, Keith needs supervision. I like supervising. And so, I was talking to Sorrel and Sage the other day about, Rob's job search, and I've got a full spreadsheet. Our daughter saw it today, and she saw all of the things, and I have reds and greens and different colors and different things.
The most.
And Sorrel and Sage was just like, okay, so if you're doing all this, what does Rob do? And he was like, the job. Right? I do the job. I don't mind that part because I don't want to do the job. I am perfectly fine in the job that I have, because then he goes and does the rest of the job.
I'm the one that left the house all day.
I don't do that. I was having meetings all day. I don't.
So yeah,
I go hiking.
But once I sign that offer letter, her work's done. His work begins. My work begins.
For years.
That's the relationship. Exactly.
And again, that's when we're talking about, like, was Rob's mental health in his last relationships, where his marriage, I will speak of, was not good.
Again,
they were not aligned. They were not aligned. And he knew, sitting back, I should have never chosen her, but I was misguided or whatever was going on with him at that point. And it affected his mental health. Like suicidal thoughts.
I won't go that far.
Well, you just talked about telling people you looked at your life insurance and you had suicide.
But no, ain't no woman ever made me want to. Here's the thing. And this
you said you had a baby on the way and were having suicide thoughts, so clearly there was a woman involved.
No, okay, well then mixing two different stories, I think. But here's the thing, and this I say kind of jokingly though, but I know myself. I'm more homicidal than suicidal, and I'm saying that seriously because there's two different types of people. I'm more likely to be on Snap because I see the other person as being the problem than I saw myself as being the problem.
Okay, you know need to watch No More Snaps with me. No. So Filmstar 13 says, yes, you do have to choose each other every day and do regular check-ins on each other's feelings. Also, once you are together, whether it's a relationship or married, you should still go on dates. And as we said earlier, for those who were not on, when we chose the title, Fuck Your Feelings, we want to be very clear about what this means. This is not about you not having feelings in a relationship. This is saying when Rob is expressing what is going on with him, with me, I have to fuck my feelings and don't make my feelings come into the forefront so he doesn't get a chance to express himself. I don't get to be in my feelings when Rob is expressing his, and vice versa.
Right. Like I heard a criticism from, again, we're going to not get into details, but when it's a man is trying to express his grievances about the relationship, the other person is taking that he's speaking on them being a derogatory woman and a derogatory mother. That's tough, because all that leaves him is a space. How is it that if a man expresses his feelings, that the woman can turn around and then say those feelings make me feel criticized? That's what Fuck Your Feelings is all about. You don't get to feel criticized about how I feel. You got to take what the hell I'm saying for its face value, okay? And then do with that what you need to do. Because one or two things will happen. Either you don't want me feeling like that or you don't mind it. Mm-hmm. And she consistently demonstrates to me on a certain levels. But then I also think there comes a point where you can't... If I was like, you smacking your teeth hurt my feelings are hurt. That he hurt all the time.
I smack my teeth.
That, you feel what I'm saying? That would be too sensitive. You being sarcastic hurts my feelings. Well, your feelings would be hurt all the time. Because the first thing, when she asks me 9 times out of 10, she asks me for something, the first thing I say to her is no.
Yeah, that's facts. He's like, no, I'm not going to do this for you.
I like her being used to that shit. Like.
So Candy Golden Rose says, I I married my high school sweetheart, and I am now happily divorced, and I would marry him again and do it all over again. I loved the journey. Because life is
it's
about
a journey.
a
It's
journey.
not about no destination. If you treat the marriage like a destination, then you're gonna wind up getting divorced one day.
It's about the journey, and you have to decide, who am I willing to take on this journey of life with me? Is this someone who, at the end of the journey, like Candy Goldie Rose said, I would do it with all over again?
Ooh, you just made me think about something. This one is for Twins Inc., I think. Here's a very basic alignment for it. When you're thinking of this significant other for you, think about having the greatest day ever. Whatever you did, accomplished, whatever it was, that was the greatest day ever. You hit that mark. Is that person going to be just as happy for you? Is that person going to be just as happy with you as you are with yourself? Like, I think we both significantly feel that way. You know what I mean? I remember once it took her a recalibration on what I said, but when she released her book, I was like, shit, I'm going to be happy if you sell 10 books. And she was like, that means you only think I'm going to sell 10 books. But eventually, she got to the point where she was saying, I was like, no, every book you sell past 10, I look at you as a success. You understand what I'm saying? Because how many people you know ain't sold 10 books in their life? She has. So she sold a lot more than 10 books at this point. Yes, definitely that. But again, the point is you need, like, support is a big thing. Support isn't just what a woman does for a man. Emotional support in a relationship is paramount. That's a big part of what we do for each other. You know what I'm saying? She supports me in these ventures. She's constantly pushing me to be more of me because I'm really reserved. I don't like sharing myself with everybody.
He doesn't like selling himself at all. And I always say to him, oh my God, if you only saw how amazing I see you as. Like, we're going through, like, job processes, and I literally have spreadsheets, and I have notes, and I make little notes, and I'm like, think about everything that you've done from when the first time you were a child who picked up a basketball to where you are now. There are not many men like you, right? I always say that to him all the time. If you could only see yourself through my lens, you would see just how effing fantastic you are. I was like, I cheer him on every day. Every day. Like, honestly, he's got a huge, please wish us luck, he's got a huge job interview come Monday. And I spent hours researching, making notes, little tidbits. We're going to go through it. We're going to do like a practice interview. I've got everything written down for him. I've got stats on the company, of stats on the interviews. Like, I got stats. I don't play. But I said to him, you need to understand that there are not many ex-professional basketball players with a bachelor in economics, with, an MBA with a focus on international finance, who lived in 7 different countries, of which he was the captain of every team despite not speaking the language, that, how people respond to him. And I'm like, you are unique and you need to sell yourself as such, because that's how I see you. And I'm like, babe, as soon as those interviewers see you, you're getting every job.
Yeah, I mean,
if I showed up for his interviews, trust me, he would get every single one. I'd be like, he's this,
yeah,
and this.
She's definitely right about that. And I'm not even gonna unpack all of that like that. But she's very accurate with that. Like, I'm not really like on. I just have a if you know type of attitude. Like,
I'm like, they better know. You're supposed to let them know.
Yeah.
And I think Twins Inc. I think that's what I think Twins Inc. When I think about, that's what you need to see from maybe the people around you to truly believe that there is some value in marriage.
Yeah.
Like, marriage for me isn't just a piece of paper with Rob. Marriage for me means that I can adopt his children as mine, so that, God forbid, anything happens to them, there's no one that's able to pluck his children from me.
See, here's the thing, and I said it earlier, a woman's encouragement, her support, the words that come out of her lips, they can make a man feel like he can run through a building or he can jump off of one. And unfortunately, more men have experienced the type of words that make them want to jump off a building than the type of words that they make them want to run through that bitch like the Kool-Aid man, like, bah, just, you know what I mean? And she does. She gives me those type of words. You know, she gives me that type of encouragement. She does other things to encourage a nigga. Like, listen, I'm just saying, that's why
Sterling Sage items,
right
I'm just saying.
Person,
I use them on everything.
the right person will have significant positive effects in your life, and the wrong person will have significant negative effects on your life. And the only way to be stagnant is to not make a decision, because that's literally the only way to stay in the same spot, is to not move.
I agree. So we are going to do our question and answer bowl. I want to, Lord of mercy. I want to thank everybody who's with us. We do have some time if anybody wants to ask us any specific questions, but before then we're going to go into just our bowl. We'll answer two questions each. Yeah, we went all night
tonight, kind of. I got to work in the morning, too. Them bad people made me go back in the office 3 days a week, y'all. Jesus. So pray for me Monday so we can get the, you know what. Which move do you regret wishing?
Which movie?
Huh?
Which movie?
Just read it.
My. If you can see this is very.
We're back to not being able to
small.
read them shits.
Right. So, which movie do you regret wasting 2 hours of your life on? I know mine's right away.
Oh man, I don't make it 2 hours into bad movies.
Mine was Gladiator. I went on a double date with my best friend Odelia, and I had to watch Gladiator, and I felt that there was like a 45-minute scene of him just on a horse going God knows where. Gladiator, I wish I could get my life back.
No, I'm not even going to answer that because y'all will be mad.
No, just tell us we going to make people mad anyways. What's the movie?
That Wonder Woman 84 shit, man. That shit was terrible. I was so mad that I watched that. I wanted to like it, and it was just awful.
Oh, that's your opinion's your opinion. Shit. Who is your favorite superhero? My sister.
Oh, that was such a great answer.
My sister is. Here is the thing. You know why I think what's interesting? So my sister is the eldest of all of us. And if you guys don't know, I'm the product of an affair. Not only am I the product of an affair, my stepmom and my sisters actually were my caregivers when I was young. So I was barely out of diapers, and my father said, "Here you go, raise my bastard child." So my sister and I, 42 years later, still have the greatest relationship. We're 14 years apart, and she is taking care of me and loved me in a space where at the age that she was at 14 when I was born, she could have looked at me very differently. And so I think, if I look at superheroes, I would say my sister and my stepmom. But my sister more.
That's what's up. That's an excellent answer. An awesome answer, babe. Okay.
I'm just going to read it.
I ain't got an answer
what
for the
is an unforgivable action?
Disrespect.
And rule number 1 of our relationship is no disrespect. Not through words or through actions.
And y'all got to understand how much pain, blood, sweat, and tears it took me through to arrive at that decision. But that was me literally looking at not only just my relationships, but every relationship I ever experienced, knew of, all of that. And that's where I came up with that idea of that's the one thing that I don't think relationships come back for, is there's a line. And once, whoever it is, once they pass that disrespect line, they will not go back across it. They will stay on that side of disrespect, and they will always feel comfortable disrespecting you.
Question. I'm just going to put it back. Sorry, I hate this question.
Oh.
So I just
well, give it to me then.
No, I'm going to put it back in the bowl. It's already
I like
dropped.
Stuff like that.
So,
and you wrote it.
I know. I didn't want to answer it. Okay, so here is my final question. Do you consider flirting while in a relationship cheating? Why or why not? No.
We had a whole show about that.
We had a whole show about that. Okay. Flirting is not cheating in our relationship. I can't tell y'all how to have your relationships. That's not what we're here to do. But flirting means that you're still alive and have a pulse. Right?
Well,
if he takes it to the next level and that quote unquote flirting, because it could be someone flirting with him or him flirting with someone. Rob is personable and he tries to be funny, and I laugh at all his jokes because I think he's hilarious. But again, 6'9", women are like, oh my God. I've got little 89 old ladies who are like, oh my God, Rob is so handsome. Like, it is what it is. Like, I don't see it as any kind of disrespect. Now, if he takes it to the next level and this woman is calling down our house and texting him, that's a whole nother thing. But flirting is not.
That's what I was going to say. For her, she's a flirt anyways. Flirting is not bad. Giving off fuck me energy is.
Ooh.
I'm not playing about that.
Oh, that was, okay, maybe we'll do one more. That was a good one. I wish I'd answered it that way. Okay, here's your last one, and I probably will read it. Any more questions? People feel free.
Okay.
Okay. Would you rather spend a week in New York or Los Angeles? I already know your answer.
Damn. Honestly, LA, even though, New York is more my native territory, and even though we're actually closer to LA, it's just, for where we're at in life now, I think LA is more beneficial to me than New York. And I got mad ties in New York anyways. I don't have that in LA.
Oh, so. I was wrong. I thought you would have said New York.
No,
okay.
I mean, I know what's up in the city. I'm good.
So this is a good question. So for me, if you could write a letter to send to us, if you could write a letter to send to us the day we became official, what would it say and why?
Read that again. I'm like blanked out for a second. I think
if you could write a letter to send to us the day we became official, what would it say and why? It would say, fuck your feelings. That's essentially what my letter to us would say. Like, facts, because that was the turning point for me when you actually said those words, and clearly the genesis of that show, and it made me realize how I may have hijacked someone's feelings by making them care about my own. And that was an important part of us being committed to our commitment, was that I had to fuck my feelings in order to sustain this relationship.
Yeah, and that's when I knew that we really could make it, because you could take me at my, like, when I'm upset, I am so difficult. I admit it. And the way things can come out sometimes is just raw. You know what
But
I'm
it's
saying?
never rude. I don't think you've ever been rude.
I try not to, because it's always said from love, but it tiptoes on that. It comes very close to that sometimes. But when I knew that this woman could take me, like, when I'm just like, you know what, that statement was said because I really don't care if it hurts your feelings or not. It's just what needed to be said, and if it hurts your feelings, I'm sorry. Then I knew we were going to be straight.
It's good to know. And now we have the show. So thank you, everybody. Before we go, we have to thank our sponsor, Sorrel and Sage. Sorrel and Sage makes sensitive skincare line. They have a sensitive skincare line for the sensitive soul. Like, I can't go into how amazing they are. I had a whole little rash on my hand. This is like real story. I had this rash on my hand, didn't know what was going on. I started using their oils on my and it is literally, I cannot feel it. It's amazing. It's worked on Rob's eczema. You can follow them on Instagram, Sorrel and Sage CA, and on their website at shopsorrelandsage.com. Tell them Toshiba and Rob sent you. I'm telling you, you will not regret purchasing their products. Next week will be another good show. Not sure what the topic will be yet, but if you have any ideas, please let us know. We are very open. This topic was inspired by one of our viewers who wanted us to discuss men's mental health, and I know we kind of went through and came back, but again, this is what we do, right? We want to engage with each of you and all of you. So thank you, everyone. Again, any topic ideas, please DM me. I'm the one who responds, and let me know what you'd like to talk about. If you'd like to be a guest, let us know. We do have a guest protocol, so as long as you agree to follow our guest protocol, you can be a part of our show. Until next week. Bye-bye.
Keep watching. Y'all gonna see the changes.
Yeah, we're gonna have some new changes, but you'll see them in a couple of weeks. Bye.
Bye.